be, how glorious it would be to have one world country, to have one world country. Oh yeah, welcome to the news. How are you doing? What's good? It's the Global Games Edition. How are you doing? So we're done. What we're talking about today is talking about the games, the global games, the global giving games, and now it's unclear how to make things come together necessarily, but what we want to do is make math and use investing and entertainment to be able to make incentivization for good and to be able to create rewards for people like young people in school. When they have recess, they get to go out to recess and they get to play. They get to play to be able to make one world country that makes it so all people are able to play together in the world. We're talking about edutainment, which is something like school, like when you were in young kids' school. When all kids were in school, they would get to go outside and play at recess, and that was their incentivization for learning. It was not about getting money. It was not about getting paper. It was about getting to go play games for school. And so when you are, as an adult, able to use edutainment and then have rewards for getting to go out and play after learning edutainment, that could be something that is independent of all states and nations and countries at all, but it's just a matter of being able to get out and get to go outside and get to go play. But it's unique because in essence, once you learn the rules of the games, then you're able to go outside and play them in essence. So it's a little bit also dual interest because you have to learn the nature of the game to be able to go out and play it to begin with. So it's like the edutainment that you learn, just like listening to this podcast. It's an ability to be able to learn what is happening in the next game that's happening, so that you're able to go outside and apply that knowledge, and then you actually apply it to the game that you're playing when you go outside and play, because other people are playing that game. And it's very much similar to that, the nature of business as a whole, because people all are bound by rules also in games of business. And yeah, but this has to do with a greater cause and a greater good. That has to do with people coming together to be able to play outside, because it is possible using the nature of games, yeah. So in essence, what edutainment is learning while being entertained. And so at the same time, if you're doing the childlike situation where you are rising above the way that the systems work in normal everyday countries, where there's attachments to the laws, to everyday scenarios where work is had and businesses are run in traditional senses that are attached to governments that have laws that are bound by the structure that revolves around the interest of each individual government and each individual country, and each individual country has a different interest that's political and based around a narrow-minded back end that has to do with some sort of agenda and necessary type of, not necessarily exactly propaganda, but it's a type of process that revolves around the nature of that specific country's focus, which has to do with something political ultimately, and something that has to be more focused on an interstate remedy that is solving an issue that has to do with something that is internal to a specific body of people, that has to do with something rooted in history, which is also related to other items that have to do not with an individual and their greatest interest and their greatest focus and their greatest being and all those things, because it has to do with past history and all these items that have to do with culture and items that relate and revolve around a culture that lived in the past and was something functioning from the past and was something that was existing in the past. So it's a past energy that's still existing in the present day, and that past energy is trying to involve and revolve people that are within a country that's an old energy within and of itself, to be able to recycle itself, to be able to make itself still try to continue and persist in a certain fashion that existed like it did yesterday, that is still trying to exist today, and that is necessary within all countries, and the nature and the functions of all countries and the economies within all countries, to be able to try to continue to make past cultures continue to exist, even though every single day people evolve and shed their skin and shed their cells and become new people on an everyday basis. So every single day, everybody becomes a new person and everybody becomes a new thing, and the dynamic and the dynamism changes on a day-to-day and consistent basis, and everybody's interest changes based on the nature of the economy that's constantly changing and ever-present unfolding, because that's what happens as time goes on, as growth happens in the economy and assets unfold. They, which people are, they all are assets and are needed to be treated as such. And so as a result of that, there is a greater interest and a greater good that rises above the interests of just specific countries, which all have to do with things that are actually kind of opposing each other as different countries, because every country being different in of itself is kind of a presence of acknowledgement that opposition is ingrained into the process of this whole system that is old school and old hat, that had to do with everything that was going on before a lot of technology existed, that was technology with it, that was able to bring people together and make people be able to acknowledge each other in the grander sense. So therefore, it is also possible to now acknowledge that that was also something that's not something that happened for very long, or very many years, and now in the present day, that these things exist, that this stuff exists, to be able to connect people through social media and social networks that exist across all borders and connect all people from all lands across the world. So therefore, it kind of makes old school hat countries a little bit outdated, and the process of countries is outdated as a whole, as an interest, as a function. It's not necessarily persisting in the way that it should, that it's necessarily the most innovative process to be able to go along with and coincide with innovation as a whole, like social media is and does as a whole. It's like it updates culture and updates all of society's ability to function and communicate on a global basis so that everything is united in a functional way, and it's very much making things transparent, that the old ways are a little bit outdated, so therefore countries and political systems are very much outdated, and also old beliefs and such are outdated, and they're sort of narratives that are passed down from time to time, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way when it comes to coming down to the greater good and the greatest good for all people that can possibly exist from manifesting a process and a system that can make an attempt to optimize everybody's existence in life, from acknowledging them as all miracles by at least giving them the least minimum resources to be able to live and function as a human, and have minimum viable tools to be able to just have an ability to connect in a way to the world and the world's ecosystem, like in ways where everybody can equally just have certain access and be able to communicate also with each other, with every person on the planet, be able to function in terms of interaction with them in an equal way, so that everybody has at least these equal, very basic counterparts. And one of the ways to do that, one of the ways to connect, is for the global giving games, the UN global goals, which has to do with 22 global goals, has to do with being able to try to figure out how to optimize the life for humans for 22 different ways and formats and ways of thinking that has not country basis, it's country agnostic, and it all has to do with caring about people and caring about the best well-being for people across all the world, and being able to play the global games is like forming a new world government in essence. Being able to play global giving games, global philanthropy games, global philanthropic energy games is like taking the game of business and being able to reform it so that all games of business are then therefore working towards making a source of philanthropic energy, basically, at the back end of that. And at the same time, it's like making a new world country. It's making a new world country. What is the anthem? Hopefully this little podcast is like part of the anthem towards the new world government. It's not like a new world government, it's like a new world country. All one country under the games, the global giving games. It's like the new form of Olympics, but it's all one country. It's called business. It's called business music that's happening all year round, every day, 365 days a year, and it's converting the energy that's on Earth between all humans into philanthropic energy, so that at the core of all business, the nature of business, which actually is already the nature of business, is philanthropic energy, which is at the core of it, which is solving problems, which is already something that exists. And therefore, if we are all able to acknowledge that this is true, that we're already playing the global giving games to begin with, but it's just sort of a peculiar, again, old hat, outdated system that countries is as a whole, that functions by propagating and making old beliefs, old hat beliefs, still existent today, but the actual nature of business as a whole is to solve problems, and therefore that's a global issue as a whole. It's a global game as a whole. So countries are not relevant. So borders are not relevant. So we're all playing that game together in essence. So everybody should have the best tools as possible in essence. If that game is real, if that game is the actual real intention and intent behind the whole game of business, which it's supposed to be, and the game of business is not a farce as a whole, and the game of business is a reality and a real thing as a whole, then that therefore makes the whole world connected in an automatic sense, because all the items that correspond to that game of bettering all the problems and all the ideas and all the people in the world to be able to fix as many problems as possible using entrepreneurship, and the back end that is fixing problems has to do with collaboration and the greatest potential possible outcome, which has to do, therefore, with using the greatest possible potential resources, which therefore has to do with leveraging all possible potential conceptual power and energy and potential energy to be able to facilitate back-end results and effects that are leveraged and resulting and caused by the greatest potential on the front end, which is to cause the greatest effect on the back end, which is the greatest potential energy on the front end, which has to do with the collaboration of all people on Earth. The greatest potential energy on Earth is to be able to connect the human energy between all people that is inherent in the nature of business in terms of trying to connect and solve all problems on Earth, because that's inherent in the greatest potential conceptual energy by connecting all the human energy on Earth, because that therefore would obviously amount to the greatest potential energy, which equates to greatest potential energy that is beyond the power and the single ability of any single country or any single country's ability in of themselves, because obviously it's a unified collective interest for everybody in the planet to look out for everybody else on the planet, and that therefore in an organic sense creates one world country, it creates one world system, it creates one world ideology, it creates one world collaboration, which we are all in, which we're pretending to not be in, which we're already in, which when we understand or acknowledge the word of entrepreneurship in of itself, it's a system called business, and that business is fueled by philanthropic energy. So therefore, we're already living in the global giving games world, the Change 4 Games Studios world. This is a message to remind us that Change 4 Games is a symbol of energy that already exists. It's called philanthropic energy, and we're trying to highlight it, trying to remember it, trying to meditate on it, trying to bring it out so that ultimately every human in the world is playing for each other. They're playing for the global family. They're playing for the global family to win in this game called life, to be able to enjoy the time that is had on this planet while this time is existing. And so everybody can look out for each other and play the global giving games, which is in essence better than the Olympics. It's called the game of business in another analogy sense. And when it is played the right way, philanthropic energy is at the core of it, and everybody in the world is playing with each other, and it's one world country, and it's one process, and it's also played by edutainment, because edutainment, like when we were kids, informs people of all the things that I just was saying, and that when they learn this process, that they realize that they're activated, that they're enlightened, that they become light, that their light turns on, that they realize that they're playing this game of a global game every single day to begin with in a global ecosystem, and they start looking out for their global family every single day so that everybody is looked out for, and everybody becomes activated, and everybody's potential energy is enlightened, and everybody's potential energy is activated, so that every person who already knows exactly what I just said already in this podcast is activated, because they become aware, they just become mentally aware that this potential exists. And just like when they hear this message, when they're in school, they get out from school and they get to go play at recess. They don't have to go to the gymnasium anymore. It's not an obligation. There's no need to go to the gym anymore, which is an it's an insulated place necessarily, but it's now an outdoor nature game, and all your exercise can come from nature. Just like at the schoolyard when everybody was kids, they get their energy and they get their exercise from playing games outdoor as kids in a global giving games, in a global giving sense. And we're translating the nature of business into a global game of giving, and it becomes one world country because it's just an organic sense, because it's already just it's a bound energy that bounds everybody through the potential of this potential energy, and therefore we have the ability to leverage and exercise this potential by leveraging the global interest through these global games. And when we have enough inspiration, we can continue to try to facilitate these causes. The global giving games, it's necessary. It's so easy when you lean into them and when you activate the mindset. The growth in between the reward is getting to go play outside. Like when you were young, there is no necessity for money. It's a system that's all controlled by mentality necessarily, and everybody is still kids, and they have the ability to reflect upon being a kid still, because that is still what we are. We're a human when we're a kid, and we're a human when we're an adult, And so therefore, everybody has that potential to just continue to activate that potential. And just by acknowledging that potential, it becomes a matter of acknowledging that everybody's an investor and everybody is also a player of games. And just right now at the current time, all these other corporations in the world have everybody's attention. And there's so many things distracting so many people and so many companies that are distracting so many people by so many people's attention being focused on different advertisements. And they're all actually playing games that are pretty much lame. All the games are pretty much lame, but they're actually games. They're actually experiences. All companies have everybody playing games because they're all experiences that everybody's playing, and they go buy their products and they support their products with paper. But it's not necessary to support people's products with paper. It's more necessary to support people's products with actions. And when you support people's products with actions in the form of global games, the global giving games, and all games are played, and the game of business is played around games, actual games like schoolyard games and games of business that leverage philanthropic energy and have to do with benefiting people, like driving places with your energy and dropping off food for people, or growing food like in vertical farms and then distributing that food around the world. And everybody contributes in this process because it's possible with all the energy that's in the world, and everybody leverages their power and their potential energy that everybody in the world has the ability to play these global giving games. And money is not even necessary. It's just a symbol that can become outdated because after all, everybody is a player in already of these games, and they have the ability to invest their time, and everybody's already an investor, but they invest their time into companies and jobs that necessarily don't look out for their best interests, as well as countries, and in their attention they invest. And they play the games that companies want them to play because their attention is invested in that, and therefore they go hand in hand. Whereas if they become enlightened enough and just also listen to some of this podcast to be able to acknowledge and turn on the light and activate their global player mentality and game, that therefore they realize that they're already part of a global country, one global system, one global government, one fake global government that has to do with a global giving game that is powered by philanthropic energy, and everybody forevermore can just continue to play the game that's fueled by philanthropic energy that has to do with one world country, one world love, one world interest, one world humanity that looks out for all other humans through the use of actions and global giving games and edutainment to be able to first to listen, and then therefore next step be able to move into the actions of giving games that spans around the world and has no borders. And everybody is one country. It already is that way. So let's turn on the lights for everybody else and look out for everybody else in the world, and turn on the light for our one world country and make our whole world better as one, and start to act like our one world country is all of ours, of all peoples, and it's all ours, and yeah, it's all of ours. So let's start to act that way and turn on the lights on the forefront for all people that we all have inside of us, yeah, starting now. Alright, thanks again, Dinky Tehc, peace, bye.